All right, folks, please take your seats. We're going to start with the presenting of the colors. This is Senator Sharif Street, and I want you to know we're about to bring the Pennsylvania Democratic State Committee meeting to order. This is going to be a good meeting. We are in the brink of making history. But as we talk about preserving and protecting democracy, we have to make sure that we respect the colors, we respect our flag, we respect our country, we respect our democracy. It is a symbol of so much of what we stand for, what we're fighting for, and who we are. So let's all rise for the presentation of the colors. Thank the Veterans Caucus for the presentation of colors. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Hans von Moll.
Please join me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let's go, Phillies.
All right, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please say this with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Pennsylvania Democrats, we are moving in, and we're now going to have Ms. Pamela Stroman Gibson, chair of the Disability Caucus, who will join us for the invocation. And there she is.
Thank you. I'd like to begin this prayer with a verse of the Bible, Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Thank you, God, as we move into this historical event, into this history-making event of ours, and pulling in all of our resources and strengths to make this happen. We know what's on our line. We know that democracy is on the line, but we also bring our humanness to this as we struggle with negotiating with our neighbors, negotiating with what's at hand and negotiating with how we're to move forward with our fears and interpretation as we clothe this and submit this to our faith to see us through. Father God, we thank you for the victory. Yes, I'm a Baptist. We thank you for the victory in this fight. And we thank you for making us whole. As we know you will make our neighbors in the southern states whole as they go through their fears and their trepidations and the trials and tribulations that they have in front of them. Make us whole after this election. Make us whole as you would have it in your eyes for us to see what you have for us, this for us to see and for us to move in that direction as you have us move into, because we know you are the answer. We know you had the answer for us. Father God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping us with us collectively getting together and collaborating on a level we have not seen in many years. So we say thank you for that, for getting us to understand our strengths in this. As we move forward, we go on one accord. We give you honor and glory in this fight, and we claim victory. Amen.
Well, thank you all for being here today. We've had so far a great state committee meeting. We are at the precipice of making history when we are able to elect Kamala Harris, the President of the United States of America. Pennsylvania Democrats, I want to thank you for all the work that you've been doing. We've recruited over 40,000 volunteers that are knocking on doors in each and every one of our 67 counties. You can give yourselves applause for that. We have sent out hundreds of thousands of text messages, live text messages, not robo-texts, with people responding to people. People are talking to their neighbors. We have Canvas launches that are happening even right now as we meet. People are knocking doors and talking to friends and neighbors. Governor Walz, our next vice president, puts it this way. Vice President Harris, after taking the baton from President Biden, who in a very historic way did what people say today politicians won't do, which was act in the interests of country, act in the interests of party, act in the interests of his fellow Americans first, and did that by stepping aside, understanding that the moment he was not the man for this moment, and proving that he was the man for the moment because there are so few people who would have stepped aside. Understanding that after a career that is almost unprecedented, being the youngest person to ever serve in the U.S. Senate and one of the oldest to ever serve as president, understood that there is a moment, there's a time to move forward and there's a time to step back. There's a time to lead and there's a time to support others in leading. So let's give a hand for President Joe Biden for putting America first, doing something that Donald Trump would never understand, understanding that it's not just about him, it's about the people we care about, it's about the issues we stand for, it's about the country that we love. Joe Biden, the man from Scranton who served in Delaware, proving that he will always put others before himself. He is the embodiment of what we stand for as a party. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Joe. Listen, Pennsylvania Democrats, we have so much work to do. You know, it's within the margin of efforts. The polls now suggest that we in Pennsylvania have a slight edge, but still, this could go either way. Let us not harken back to the day. Let's remember the days of 2016. You know, there's an African principle called Sankofa, which means to move forward, we must look back. And while we want to be the party that's always forward moving, we got to remember what happened. In our immediate history, not so long ago in 2016. We thought we were at the precipice of making history then. We thought we were going to have a woman lead the White House then, and we thought we were going to deliver Pennsylvania. We are that critical block. Woo. All right, we're the critical block of the blue wall, and that cringe feeling that we just heard from that was probably appropriate, because that's how we felt in 2016, like someone had just proverbial scratched chalk, and we all cringed at the idea that we were going to have the Orange Menace as president of the United States, and we didn't know how bad he was going to be. And we were still, but we knew it was going to be bad. And we felt bad because all of us will admit that we all thought we could have done a little bit more. We individually thought we could have knocked on one more door, could have talked to somebody else. We could have done a little bit more. I was the only non-incumbent Democrat to win a state Senate seat anywhere in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that year. And at my victory party, all we watched were the flow of tears as people cried at the prospect of what was going to happen to our country. And again, we didn't realize how bad he was going to be. Then in 2020, we came together in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of crisis, and Pennsylvanians who rose to the occasion, and we beat Donald Trump and sent him packing, even though he didn't want to go. But he showed, we can cheer for that, but he showed us in that moment how bad he could become. See, people had always speculated that he didn't have a respect for the rule of law, but on January 6th, when he tried to have the electoral votes of Pennsylvanians decertified, when he presented fake electors, when he incited a mob to hang his own vice president, when they attacked law enforcement officers, when people died defending the right to vote, defending our rights to vote, defending our electors, defending our ability to choose our leaders, Americans rose to the occasion, and we did have a sort of peaceful transference of power, because the vast majority of Americans did accept it, begrudgingly, many. But we understand now that while he's never admitted it, if he gets back in, he may not go. We don't know. But what we do know is, because we don't know what would happen at the end of another 4 years of him, but we know what would happen during that 4 years. They've laid out a plan. They've told us about it. As Maya Angelou says, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And Project 2025, which, Donald Trump says he knows nothing about. That's like me saying, I know nothing about the legislative agenda that Micah, my chief of staff, writes. I know nothing about what the promises that Emmett Harity, who is my senior advisor and the little brother of my best friend, I know nothing about what these guys say. It's literally absurd. We as elected officials operate as the face of an organization, and in the same way that these folks that I just mentioned that you all know operate as an extension of the authority that I wield, those people who wrote Project 2025 were Donald Trump's staff. They were Donald Trump's advisors. They are running his campaign. It is his plan. We cannot let him walk away from it, because it is what he intends to do to us. And what does that plan include? Well, the first part of it, they already started. The Dobbs decision rolled back Roe v. Wade, and they took away a fundamental right that my 75-year-old mother, who will be 76 soon, has enjoyed for most of her life. And my 3 granddaughters, who are all 4 and under, don't have right now. We're not used to going backwards. But what they plan to do going forwards is worse. They want a national abortion ban so that women in every place, including here, will not be able to exercise their right to bodily autonomy. The plan infringes on a woman, a family's ability to start a family through IVF. The plan goes further than that. They would strip away the right to organize. And so the very protections that unions have brought us, protections like rising wages, protections like workplace OSHA protections, protections, things that came to about like the 40-day work week and minimum wage. Those came because we have a proud and strong labor movement. If you strip away the right to organize, it does not merely impact those of us who are members of unions. It will impact every working American, and trust me, that's a part of the plan. If you don't think so, think about this statistic. My friend Wayne Miller and the sprinkler fitters down in southeastern PA talked about how you used to could write off your tools and various things about being a construction worker. A lot of folks, Democrats and Republicans, who are regular working men and women, wrote those things off. Saved the average person about $14,000 in deductions. Real money for working people. Those things were stripped out in Donald Trump's tax bill. And I won't call it a tax cut bill, because for those folks, it was an increase. He eliminated deductions. That's an increase for the people that had those deductions. At the same time, he gave a tax cut to 3 individuals in the Walton family that amounted to about $31.9 billion a year. So how many construction workers had to give up $14,000 a year in deductions in order for him to pay for a tax cut to 3 people for $31 billion? The answer is, and I'm sure somebody's calculating this, but the answer is millions of people, so he could give it to 3. This is the greatest transference of wealth from regular people to rich people that we have seen. The elimination of mortgage interest deduction, SALT, and so many other things. In fact, we need to stop calling it the Donald Trump tax cut, because for most regular people, it was a tax increase. He raised your taxes so he could give tax cuts to the richest portion of the American public. He increased regular people's taxes. And he's probably too stupid to even understand the nuances. But the people that wrote Project 2025 are just as evil, but not so stupid. They knew what they were doing. Right? And they will do it again. The erosions of affirmative action and when they attack diversity, equity, and inclusion, what they want to say is that we don't need a workplace that includes women, people of color, or people of religious and ethnic minorities. They say we don't need that. That what in fact they're saying, because we've never had a society that discriminated against straight white men. That's just the reality. It's not a thing. Maybe some white men have a hard time because they were poor. But they don't have a hard time because they're a straight white man. They have a hard time because Donald Trump and rich billionaires keep taking money out of their pockets and putting it in rich people's pockets. I'm not saying those people aren't hurting, but let's talk about why they're hurting, because the why matters. This is what this is about. Understand that the LGBT community is under assault in ways that none of us could have imagined. The things that they want to do in terms of stripping away marriage equality, which, by the way, means, as Howard Mosley so eloquently talked about in the women's panel, would mean that when he had cancer and something had happened, had he been incapacitated, his husband would not have been able to make decisions about what happened to him. It's not a frivolous thing. It is so impactful in decisions that many of us take for granted. There is no, my wife, April, takes for granted that if something happens to me, she's calling the shots. And she should. Why should the LGBT community have to live with any more uncertainty about that than the rest of us? Project 2025 is a direct assault on their rights. And there's some people that say, what about my religious beliefs and consciousness? You know, the right to religion and freedom of religion is the right to express and associate as you choose. Exercise your religious right. Our religious freedoms have always been a shield, not a sword. It's our right to practice the way we want, but we should not be imposing those rights on other people. And by the way, to my Muslim brothers and sisters, if we did go into a theocracy, guess what? It will not be an Islamic one. And for Jewish community, the same thing. They want to move. There's a Christian nationalism that they are advancing. And by the way, the part of Christian nationalism they leave out is a white Christian nationalism. So to my black pastors out there, their Christian nationalism doesn't include you. It doesn't include you. To my Muslim brothers and sisters who are concerned about what happens abroad, Republicans and Donald Trump have talked about the complete elimination of people in Gaza. They have talked about attacking people at levels that I have never heard any American Jewish group advocate for. It is unthinkable what they are talking about doing. And we have to recognize that while the Democratic positions may not be perfect and these issues are tough, the Democratic position is to try and find balance. And finding balance is tough. It's to try and find balance, and balance is tough. But there is no reasonable alternative on the other side. As they talk about doing things that are unconscionable abroad, while as they advocate for doing unconscionable things here, do you really trust Muslim Americans? Do you really trust that the administration that publicly advanced a Muslim ban in the United States will care anything about Muslims abroad? Let's be very clear. For those who have suggested in the Muslim community, for those who are my progressive brothers and sisters who have suggested that somehow there is a reasonable alternative, do you really trust that the people who wish to ban Muslims from coming into this country have any scintilla of respect for Muslims abroad? They do not. State committee members, the choices when we go through issue after issue are strong. And by the way, for my Jewish brothers and sisters who we love and respect, we want to live in a country of plurality. But guess what? It was Donald Trump who, after a march in Charlottesville that started off attacking the rights of African Americans, that started out about advancing the Confederate flag, ended with them chanting, "The Jews will not replace us," while they carried tiki torches in the street and murdered a woman. And Donald Trump said there were good people on both sides. Anyone chanting "the Jews will not replace us" is not a good person, and there should be no equivocation about that. Pennsylvania Democrats, we could go on for a very long time, but what we have on the other side is joy and hope. We have an opportunity to elect Kamala Harris, who came in not with sort of the angry tone that I have, but with a smile on her face. They get angry because she's happy. Well, she's happy in part because she understands that we need a little joy in our lives. We need to come together. And she's happy because she understands that none of this has to happen because she can win. She understands that we don't have to worry about him going back to caging people at the border and separating children from families. And for my Latino brothers and sisters who say we can't do anything about it because they are so heartbroken about what are happening, si se puede, yes, we can. We can do it. We can do it by electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We can do it. For those who are concerned about the housing crisis and the income inequality that comes with it, she's proposed 3 million new houses, new affordable houses. When you look at what's already been done, we're trying to bridge the economic gap with the Inflation Reduction Act. We've created millions of new jobs, and we can do better, and we will. Remember at the end of the pandemic how bad things were, and all of our businesses were shut down. And in fact, 95% of women-owned and Black and brown businesses have been rejected from Donald Trump's loan program. They got money to the states, and right here in Pennsylvania, we pushed out $125 million to disadvantaged businesses that Donald Trump had turned away from. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did that, and Kamala Harris knows there's more work to be done. When we talk about issues like making our streets safer, there couldn't be a more stark comparison. As we look at the first choice that either of them had to make in this cycle, which was who would be their running mate. And Donald Trump chose a guy who in the Republican convention told a hokey folksy story, and he did it with an affable tone, where he said, in fact, that his Meemaw had 14 loaded guns that she lost. He talked about how we needed to respect that as a cultural imperative, and that people should be able to have loaded guns and lose them. And they should be able to continue to do that. You know, the children who hide under their desks, worried about another school massacre, don't think that that is such a funny thing. The people who lived through the massacre at the Tree of Life and who have family and friends don't think that's such a funny thing. The people who lose loved ones to gun violence and mass shootings that happen 4 and 5 and 3 and 4 at a time in the streets of our communities, both inner city and rural, like my family did on July 4th on Independence Day of 2021, don't think so. It's disrespectful to all of those Americans who've lost loved ones. And what did Kamala Harris do? She picked Governor Walz. Governor Walz, who is governor of Minnesota, and who is an avid hunter, who is a sportsman and is the congressional marksman champion, understood after he served in the Army as an enlisted man for over 2 decades, understood that weapons of war have no place on the streets of ordinary Americans. And in Minnesota, Governor Walz signed a bill that banned those weapons of war and kept the people of Minnesota safe. And Kamala Harris and Governor Walz will work, when she's President Harris and he's Vice President Walz, will work to make sure our communities are safe, and they will do it while respecting the rights of hunters, because guess what? You don't need an AR-15 and armor-piercing bullets to hunt deer. Deer don't wear armor, and you don't need an AR-15 to hunt them. But in order for them to win, we've got to do our job. And this is real clear. If you watch MSNBC or CNN, everyone will talk about the fact that there will union households come out to vote for the Democrats. Guess what, Pennsylvanians? They're talking about you. Because it's not union households they're worried about in Texas or California, because they think they know how those states are going to go. It's Pennsylvanians. When they talk about will women voters show up for Kamala Harris, because guess what? I remind you, too many women didn't show up for Hillary. They're talking about you, women. We can't take it for granted. Not done yet. Well, thank you. This next one's personal. To my black men out there, for the young brothers who had a black mama who raised them, had a black auntie that probably took care of them, had a black grandma that prayed for them, have a black woman that is probably holding them down at home, have black women who are probably making sure that their churches, mosques, or synagogues open, have black women who are the backbone of everything in their lives. And let's be clear, every significant African-American organization for the last 400 years has had black women at the backbone of it. For black men to be questioning whether or not black women can lead everything that's going on in your lives right now. I'm a black man and I said it, I know it. Black women have been standing up for black men as long as we've been around. Black women hold us down. And brothers, if we care about our community, we're going to show up and show out. for the sisters, the way they've been showing out for us forever. Pennsylvanians, they're talking about us. We need to do what we have to do. We need to get this done. And we can do it. We're not going back. 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 Nor are we going to, nor are we going to that crazy TV show they want to live in. That's a Handmaid's Tale, and that's exactly what they're imagining, and we're not going to that either. But with no further ado, I've talked long enough. We've got a little business to do today. We're going to have some fun later on. By the way, folks, we're going to have a great Independence dinner tonight. You all can make sure you show up there. If anybody's looking for an extra ticket, Councilman Harity is the man to see about that. But with no further ado, we talked about women leading. We've talked about women holding us down. We talked about women getting this thing done. There is a woman that's been holding it down for Pennsylvania. She is in her second tour of duty as vice chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, none other than our vice chair, Peggy Grove.
Now that is a sermon that is really hard to follow, and I can't sing. So we found that out last night. For some reason, the chair thought I was supposed to sing the national anthem. I said, no, I can't sing. But I did sing in the Winter Olympics in 1960 at Squaw Valley. Me and 2,000 other people. Anyway, tonight, if there are people who have not gotten tickets already, I also have a few people at my table that I didn't know I had. So, if some of you gave your names to Mitch, I suggest that you do give names and not wait at the door to chance whether you're going to get a ticket or not. If a couple more of you want to be able to sit at my table, I still have a few seats. And tonight, I'm going to ask for a model, and you all know and love him. Mitch, would you please come forward? Take your glasses off. Take your shirt off. No. No, wait. I get to do this. Okay. Now, we're going to name these special glasses, which I've never seen before. Don't ask me where I got them. Probably someplace in New York City or Philly. Anyway, I didn't have the guts to wear them at the Democratic National Convention. And they're real heavy, so they're sturdy. So we decided in the last 3 hours when I showed them to people that one of the lenses for Elton John and the other is Taylor Swift. He's going to try them on just to prove that a man can wear them, a woman can wear them, and LGBTQ people would look lovely in them. And I hope that nobody's offended by that remark. All right, I also have a hat that says Madam President, but I've seen men with them also, and women, and everybody, all of the LGBTQ and all the other ones that I can't remember all the initials for. Okay, now to complete his ensemble. Now wait, it gets funnier. This is really
not done yet.
Okay. This mask I have no idea. Somebody gave it to me as a joke, and I never wore it, so it is clean and it is able to be. Now, when you put it all up to you, hold it by the ear thing so it doesn't get dirty, because somebody may want to use this. Okay, it says, don't let the infection spread. STD. We all know what STDs are, but it's really Stop the Donald. Now, that could have passed for a costume last night. Speaking of last night, thanks to the Rural and Black Caucus, apparently those people who went had a wonderful time. I'm not able to go to those kinds of things because I have an active infection and I had COVID after the convention, so I can't do big groups. Now, when I usually go into a room this size, I don't wear my mask, which is really kind of cool, sparkly, like, I promised when I turned 77 I would sparkle every day. And I wear sparkles every day. But not everywhere. I just want to say that when I was, let me see how to put this in order. I was supposed to be able to go see Biden and his wife, to be inspirational, etc. And then he got COVID. Well, he didn't get COVID first. He decided, by the grapevine, I heard this, that there was a big decision being made that same weekend I was supposed to go see him, that he had decided to step down according to his family and friends and his own personal counsel. I really, really honor every word that Sharif just said, our chair, Sharif Street. I'm not going to say anything more than these wonderful, meaningful thoughts that he said surrounding the Honorable, the President of our United States, President Biden. He is a mensch. What he has done is he brought back hope. He brought back hope. And like many families, the woman in the family, whether she's a mother, a wife, a niece, whatever her position is in life, the breadwinner in many cases, she's the hope of that family, always. Those babies that she bears are a hope for the future. I don't know right now, if I were young enough to have children, whether I would do that. And I have a goddaughter who is risking her life. This is probably going to be the only child that she will carry, that she just made 22 weeks into her pregnancy, and she has genetic defaults in her DNA. Her mother's an albino. Her father had rheumatoid arthritis and died of heart failure at a very young age, right after she was only 2 years old. She just passed the test that she does not carry that particular gene and that the baby's okay. That if she weren't in the state of Pennsylvania, that test could not have been done. Not all states have the same rules, as we all know. And for something that I have, when I was in my teens and early 20s, I was not sexually active the entire time. But I will tell you that I knew that I could get care if I needed to have care, if I contracted an infection, or if I had something happen that I was not able to take care of at that particular time, that I had a doctor who I could go to for advice and care. To know that there are young people, especially teenagers and younger, that have been raped or are carrying a child as a result of incest, as well as the older women who may be in that same situation, that they can't have a D&C, which is another word for a very early abortion. And the whole idea that it's being touted that babies are being killed after a live birth is just insane. It's just insane that is even being spoken. It's so sacrilegious. I don't know of any doctor that would do anything like that, or any caregiver that would do that kind of thing. And to have the doctors not be able to treat somebody who they know is in the parking lot hemorrhaging and will die, and let them not be able to do something, has to be as hard as it is for a woman to make the decision voluntarily, not that her body has made or that the baby that she's carrying has made, that her body has made, that she is not able to control. I can't imagine what that might be like, and nor can any of the women in this room, because we don't have that here yet. I said yet. If you do not go and vote, shame on you, because you are not taking care of yourself, your children and your grandchildren and 7 generations to come. That's your responsibility. And don't depend on the day of the election to vote. I know it's exciting to do that, etc., but if you can vote by mail, or if you don't trust the mail, or you don't trust the drop boxes, you don't have them in that county that is not able to have drop boxes this time. And I think that the legislation or the lawsuit has settled that they're now able to have them, but I don't know. I haven't got the latest update. But perhaps someone can speak to that after I'm done. But go into your county board of elections, because there's also a concern about mailers that were sent out in the last 2 weeks during the humidity, that the envelopes are coming already sealed. And if the seal is broken, they are not going to count it. I wouldn't be surprised if some Republican getting a hold of some of those postmen and put them under steam to make that happen. I don't trust them for anything, to be honest with you. I know that seems far-fetched, but I wouldn't be surprised. And all the dirty tricks, you can talk to Laser Polnick and Cliff Levine of all the things that they are fighting in voter protection. And they have, I think he said, over 800 attorneys across the state that are fighting for our right to vote this time. They learned a big lesson last time Pennsylvania was on the line. There were so many lawsuits that those men and the people who helped them are why we had Biden as our president for the last 4 years. Please give them a round of applause. This is important. This is the most important election I will have seen. And my first election was for JFK when I was in high school. I got to ride the Freedom Train that came across the United States, and it had all the important documents or facsimiles thereof. I wouldn't have known the difference. And it had a kind of like a traveling sidewalk, kind of like some of the airports have, that they carry you along faster because they wanted everyone to see things. And I am a very slow reader. So I got to go on that 4 times because I was president of the Young Dems, which is very fortunate. I never, ever, ever thought in my wildest dreams I would ever be able to see some of those documents at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And I have been able to lobby on both the Hill in Pennsylvania as well as in Washington, D.C. I've lobbied for various and sundry organizations I've belonged to, most of them healthcare. But I never thought I would be able to do that. I came from very poor family, very poor. In fact, dog food and potatoes became stew. So I'm telling you, I understand the plight of the people who live on food stamps. I understand those people on the street. And I understand alcoholism, and I understand drugs because I lived with it. And this is not easy for the people who are impoverished or about to be impoverished. So we're voting for every single one of those people, as well as your own self, your family, your union. If it weren't for unions, the women would still be behind the sewing machines and behind locked doors and not be able to leave if there was a fire. Unions they have made workers' rights what they are, and they become traditions. Your 40-hour work week came from the unions. The breaks came from the unions. The health and safety issues came from the unions. And my hat goes off to them. My hat goes off to the DEI, and they are being eliminated now. All those groups for the hospitals, the big corporations, etc. I wonder why. Could it be greed? Could it be their corporate boards that don't want to spend the money on such a frivolous thing as trying to have equal rights and equal opportunity? Could it be, maybe? I'm so disappointed in what has happened to the other party. I have friends that are attorneys, friends that are business owners, and I ask them, how can you still vote for this person who has so many things demonstrated in so many ways and told us what he will do, and we've seen what he has done. And he's just so slippery. Everybody said he's so stupid. I said, oh no. I said, this is an evil genius that you have here. And he has the money, or has stolen the money, enough money that he has a whole, I'm saying basement, but it's some part of Mar-a-Lago or wherever, that he has all these attorneys that are willing to work for money to be able to come up with every loophole they can find in our Constitution, in our justice system, etc. It's just unbelievable. And I ask these people, as it gets worse and worse, have you read the report 2025? Oh yeah. And I said, and you agree with it? Oh, there are some things that are a little sketchy. I said, sketchy? I said, maybe we need to have cliff notes for you. Maybe then you would understand a little better, because 900 pages is a lot of reading just before bed to go to sleep. I'm telling you, yesterday at the Women's Forum, thanks to Candy Stitzman, who's the chair of the Women's Caucus.
Yeah, Candy.
As well as a lot of we had some legislators there. We had Marjorie Margolis as the I'm going to call her Mater D. She held the position of the, what's a good word for it? What do I want to? Moderator. Well, I wasn't going to use that, but moderator is fine. Anyway, Marjorie Margolis, for those who don't know her, or maybe knew her as Marjorie Margolis Mezvinsky, when her husband was chair of the DNC, that was many, many years ago. Many were not even born yet, probably. She is the mother-in-law of Chelsea Clinton. That means she's grandma to Chelsea, and I can't remember what her son's name is, but his is Margolis, or Mezvinsky, pardon me. So she was the moderator. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool for Candy to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Marge, want to come over and help us out? Anyway, yesterday, names are bad for me today. Candy, stand up, and who is the woman who gave us the cliff notes for 20? Lisa, did you say is her first? Eichhorn is her last name. Okay. But she did a wonderful job of unraveling the 2025 report that put things in perspective without it being dull and just rhetoric. She really put it in perspective, and we're so thankful that she was able to join us. She's just wonderful. And Candy also brought these flowers. She was smart enough, they were bought yesterday for the forum, and she was smart enough to put them in the refrigerator, so we got to enjoy them again. And your chair has a boutonniere as a direct result. Okay. Yes? Is there a call? Right. If you were not credentialed, come up here, please. Can I give my report? Oh, sure. I didn't realize that the chair had overlooked you. I'm sorry about that.
No, we haven't gotten
that far.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay. So why didn't you tell me to shut up? I didn't tell you to shut up.
I wasn't going to.
Is it okay?
I've said it 5 times already. Shut up.
Diane Bowman, our credentials chair, is going to give her report. And I didn't realize that we had this whole other half of the meeting that we haven't gotten to yet. So sorry about that. He got to talk for half an hour, so I thought 10, 15 minutes wouldn't be too bad. Thank you, everybody.
Did I hear somebody call for the credentials report?
Officially.
The 3 people that were proxied here at the meeting, I did not have a proxy tag for them. So in case anybody questions their vote, see me, I have their proxies. Just wanted to say that. Okay. So our total membership in the state committee is 367. A quorum to be established is 184. In person, we have 220 and 36 proxies for a total of 256 voters. Good job. Just one other note, there are 10 nominating committee members present with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. A comment on the credentials report?
Just one from the floor, Carlotta Johnston Pugh, Chester County.
Okay, see the credential chair. So that'll be amended. The report will be amended to reflect that, without objection. So with no further ado, listen, we're talking about women leading. And in Pennsylvania, guess what, Democrats? We have a chance to put a Democratic woman in a leadership position, a woman who will make sure that the money is right, and she will continue to fight for our rights as she does it. I'm pleased to introduce to some and present to others a woman who is going to be our next treasurer of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Miss Erin McClellan.
Thank you. How y'all doing, Democrats? I am Erin McClellan, and I am looking forward to being your next state treasurer. I have been working with 2 extraordinary men in Malcolm Kenyatta for Auditor General and Eugene DePasquale for Attorney General. We have been running as a team and taking good care of each other. I know while Malcolm and I were in Western Pennsylvania, Eugene was taking care of us last night. So I'm here to talk to you one last time about the importance of your row offices. First of all, I want to thank the state party and particularly Sharif and the team. When you think about the fact that we changed the name at the top of the ticket in the middle of the summer, you can imagine how the logistics of that must have been. But I can tell you firsthand that it was absolutely seamless. And I am so grateful for how they were really on top of everything from top to bottom. I want to thank Mitch Cates and Diane Gregg. They are in every county with us. They have their ears to the ground. If there's a problem, they're taking care of it. And we would not be here with the outpouring of support that we are seeing in rural counties if Sharif Street wouldn't have started to build that from the minute he became chair. And I was on a congressional ballot in 16 in some rural counties, Cambria, Somerset, Beaver, and Lawrence. And I can tell you that what we are seeing right now is absolutely extraordinary. There were almost 200 people at the Somerset County dinner. It was amazing. Y'all are killing it. The IUP Dems are throwing banquets, and it's a full house. We are seeing an outpouring, there they are. We are seeing an outpouring of support unlike anything I've ever seen. In Somerset County, people showed up wearing Harris shirts. Now, there used to be a time in Somerset County where you didn't walk around with a Democratic name on a t-shirt because you just might get hurt. Now, people are coming out of the woodwork, and they are Republicans, they are Democrats, they are independents, and they've had enough. They're ready to move forward. They are not going back, and we have to welcome them all with open arms. One of the biggest things that the 3 of us have all recognized is, Joe Biden did one of the most extraordinary jobs on workers, bringing jobs back, creating manufacturing. The jobs report we just had is absolutely extraordinary. Inflation has now come down to a normalized level. We are absolutely killing it, and interest rates are coming down, and gas prices are coming down. The Republicans have absolutely no argument what to make on the strength of this economy. It is the best that we have seen since a man walked on the moon, and that is Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris is going to take us to the next chapter. And that next chapter, and this is very personal to me as somebody who spent 10 years working in public sector work, because I believe in that work. I believe in a career of service. And I have watched the Republicans declare war on them. When you deny the 2020 election, you're not really just declaring war on Joe Biden. You are attacking every county election worker in this state. And for the first time in Allegheny County, people, seniors who do this out of the goodness of their heart purely because they mythologize the idea of a government that operates at the consent of the governed, were being threatened and screamed at and attacked and not wanting to work their polls anymore. That's an attack on public sector workers. When Trump is out there telling people that the FEMA workers are stealing their money and not doing the work right, they're getting attacked, they're getting yelled at, they're being told that they're not doing their job, and that's just not true. We have to stop this attack, and that begins with putting 3 row offices in there who will actually protect your workers. Malcolm's gonna do it with the Bureau of Worker Protection. Eugene's gonna do it, and he's gonna make sure he prosecutes anybody that doesn't do it right and take care of our labor laws. And I'm gonna make sure we build Joe Biden's trade reforms on building it in the United States into our supply chain, since Stacey Garrity refuses to do it. We are the party of the working class. We built the economic ladder of opportunity that leads to prosperity. We will guard it with our lives. That's what we will die for, and we will let every worker in Pennsylvania know that. From Montgomery to Erie, from Wayne to Greene, from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, and every working family that resides in between, the Democratic Party are the people for you. So I want you to dwindle this all down to you. Somebody asked me the other day, all right, when we're knocking on doors for the row offices, people don't really understand them. What do I say? I said, you got one question for each one. Do you believe your Auditor General should actually audit your schools? Yeah. And if you believe that, then Malcolm Kenyatta is the only person that is going to go to Harrisburg and get that done. Do you believe that your Attorney General should not prosecute a woman, a doctor, or a provider for the administration of safe abortions, regardless of what DC does in the Supreme Court or anybody else? Do you believe that our rights are fundamental and should be protected? If your answer is, I will not prosecute, Eugene DePasquale is the only one that has had the guts to make that statement, put it on the line, and say, I will be here for women. Do you believe that your state treasurer should pay the AFSCME workers in her office the COVID back pay that she got from Joe Biden that she refuses to give them? Yes. Yeah. And do you believe our teachers' pensions should be invested in foreign oil like the Saudi Arabian stock exchange? No. Well, then I'm your girl for state treasurer. So please remember your row offices. Remember that they are there as protectors, as watchdogs, not as lapdogs for the Republican Party. We all need your help. Thank you all so much, Democrats. I love you, and I'll see you November 5th.
Our next state treasurer, Aaron McClellan. How about another hand for her? Woo. Look, Democrats, we've got a great slate. We're going to have a great weekend. Watchdogs, not lapdogs. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, we're going to help we got to make sure all of our row officers get elected. We've got to make sure that we resend Bob Casey back to United States Senate. We got to fight for every one of our row officers and for Bob Casey, because when Kamala Harris is president of the United States, we want a United States Senate that will actually give her judges a hearing. We're going to make sure we have a United States Senate that will actually make sure it confirms her choices. Remember when we elected Barack Obama and we didn't finish the job by giving him a United States Senate? And that's how we got into this mess to begin with. Donald Trump wouldn't have had all those Supreme Court appointments if Barack Obama had been allowed to appoint his justices. We have to make sure that Bob Casey is reelected so we can continue to have a United States Senate that will support Kamala Harris as president of the United States of America. And so with that, the excitement continues and mounts as we're gonna have the Rules Committee report by Micah Majubi.
Bring the heat, Micah.
So yesterday he tricked me into buying a painting, and today I get to follow all of the great speeches that we've just heard, especially from our treasurer candidate. That was great. So the Rules Committee met yesterday. It was a working meeting. We don't have anything to report out for the floor to vote on today, but I did want to give a quick report. Over the past 10 months, there's been a subcommittee working on a process for our body to hopefully put together a issues-based platform. And the committee sort of ratified a process in which the committee will have going forward, and we wanted the entire group to sort of be aware of it. A draft of that went out in the 10-day call. It was modified a little bit of it. It is upstairs on the check-in tables. I don't know if they're still there. If you can grab one, they're there. If not, you can come see me or one of the other committee members. In the back page, there is a link. There's a QR code and a link. You can go to that, and there's a survey there. And one of the things you can do is you can indicate if you have an interest in being part of working with us on this going forward. I wanted to thank the chair of the subcommittee, Beth Finn, and the rest of the subcommittee, Kathy Lucas and Adrian Jadek, for all of the work that they did on this. And our goal is we're going to begin sort of working on drafting something between now and the next meeting. We'd like to be able to get more input and share an update at the next meeting with the goal of hopefully being able to ratify a platform in the summertime meeting. And that is the report from the Rules Committee.
Thank you. We've got an update for the Credentials Committee. The Credentials report as amended is now 257 present. Thank you, Pennsylvania Dems, for showing up. We'll now hear the report from the Credentials Committee. You're next. Credentials Committee. I'm not bylaws. I'm sorry. We're going to go to voter outreach because bylaws we're going to have to take action on bylaws. So we're going to voter outreach and then bylaws. Bylaws is going to be the exciting one.
Okay, I'm so glad that Michael was here and calmed everybody down. So maybe I'll get everybody excited again. I'll say, Phillies? Are we all Phillies fans here for tonight? Okay, so the main thing we talked about at our meeting today was voter protection. And we had Lisa from the political director for Bucks and Manco talking about they would like one person in the polls and one person outside the polls just to do voter protection. And then Attorney Todd Egan talked to us about motion and cure, how we make sure that our ballots are right. There was a lot of discussion about the sealing of the envelopes. And so we're going to put out all of the new information to all state committee members probably this coming week. We'll answer most questions. And I had two guests at our meeting. Well, one guest and one thing. But I am so excited that we now have Caitlin Ahern, who's going to be working with the college Dems. And all of us who kept saying, we need to get the younger people involved. We need to get the younger people involved. They are involved. She's fantastic. Make sure you remember that name. Make sure if she calls you, you answer her. They're ready to work. And then we have a high school one. We didn't stop there. We have Aaron DeSantis, who's going to be working in the schools. The same thing. When she calls you, when she emails you, they're in the back of the room cheering. There they are. Give them a hand. Yay! I just think that is so exciting. And the last thing we went over is, and a lot of you are familiar with the voter outreach Google Drive, where we have listed anything that you sent us or sent somebody else about voter registration, about Joe Biden, following Trump rallies, shooting, that was on. But there's 2 pages full. It's all categorically listed, video links. If you're looking to do something, go here first. Most likely you're going to find it there. And that was the 4 things that we came down for, the 4 things that we need to do right now. The first is we need to register people to vote. We need to educate the people about voting. We need to do our GOTV, and we make sure that we're doing notice and cure, because that's really important to get people to the polls. And that's all I have for my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And at the sound of a knock, the chair accepts the report of the Voter Outreach Committee. Next, we will hear the moment we've all been waiting for, the report from the Bylaws Committee. I will tell you, the Bylaws Committee's done some great work. They've been working on issues as varied as how do we deal with updating exciting issues like how do we update our county bylaws, to things even more thrilling about how do we deal with changes to the procedural rules for endorsements. But those matters, I think we're going to probably end up dealing with at a subsequent meeting. But there are issues related to gender equity and bring us in line with the DNC that we're going to try and deal with today. So with no further ado, the man who has led that mission, Tom Herman, chair of the Bylaws Committee. Mr. Herman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Street. You make bylaws sound as exciting as watching grass grow. But it is important to the committee. The committee met yesterday for the discussion of the bylaw amendments package that was voted out of committee at our last meeting and submitted with the 30 and 10-day call. This is a comprehensive review that hasn't taken place in this party in over 30 years. I need to report the committee has worked to update our bylaws, clarify some of the rules in them, eliminate passages that no longer exist, fix typographical errors, bring the bylaws up to date, and make them concurrent with what we're doing as our current practices. This process has taken our committee well over 2 years to get to this point. To that end, individual members of the Bylaws Committee submitted their individual recommendations for updates. Those recommendations were then divided into 2 groups, one from the east and one from the west. The west was chaired by Margie Swoboda from Center County. Thank you, Margie. The east was chaired by Aidan Levison from Lehigh County. Thank you, Aidan. Those 2 reports from the consolidation of those 2 groups of East and West, it's important to note, were almost identical in their recommendations. The committee then consolidated those reports into one package that was submitted with the 30-day call. We reviewed that package prior to the submission, made minor revisions, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the diligent work of Blade Klein from York County and Sean Malloy from Allegheny, who worked diligently to help us get, they deserve applause, to help us get compliant with the gender equity issues that are mandated by the DNC. As previously stated, the last meeting, the committee unanimously voted this package to be submitted. Pursuant to our rules, it was submitted timely in our 30 and 10-day call in order for the members to have adequate time to review the amendments. In total, there were 32 independent changes to our current bylaws that were submitted. At our meeting yesterday, in order to reduce the potential debate time that these individual amendments may have, and I would have to say at the urgent request of our state party chair, the committee voted to submit for vote today only the 17 changes that provide the necessary non-binary language and gender equity that is mandated by the DNC, with the remaining 15 changes to be decided by state committee at our winter meeting. To that end, Mr. Chairman, I move the amended package that was submitted, at least to me, at 6:30 a.m. this morning, and provided just the gender equity and non-binary language changes be adopted, and the remainder of the changes be decided at our winter meeting. Mr. Chairman, that ends my report. I would respectfully ask this body for a second and to support the motion.
Chair recognizes a second by Mary Levin from Montgomery County. So we have a motion on the floor. The motion has been moved and properly seconded that this body accept the changes to the bylaws that would bring us in alignment with the DNC with respect to gender equity, with respect to inclusion, with respect to non-binary, and that those changes to our bylaws would allow us to come into compliance with the DNC's changes that respect the individuality of each and every person in this Commonwealth and in this country. Is there a discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? If not, the chair moves to the previous question. All those in favor will do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay. So with a vote of everyone, with 256 in favor and 1 in opposition, that motion does pass. With no further business having been listed on our agenda, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. That motion has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. This meeting stands adjourned. God bless.